I think we understand more and more that the life webs that makes human beings happier and healthier, that there's things we need to do to acknowledge those life webs and do what we can do to just help it.
Welcome to Home Green Homes Podcast. I am Izumi Tanaka, a green home advisor and a green realtor. Here I invite a variety of experts in the world of green homes and have conversations about how we can all live in healthy, resilient, and efficient homes. My guests provide insight in a wide range of topics, from designing, building, and living in green homes, purchasing or financing green homes and improvements, to how we can live to reduce the negative environmental impact from the way we live. My goal is to inspire and inform you about how we can make a difference in our own lives and our environment. Hello, this is Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes Podcast. Today I have a very good friend of mine, and he is also a very avid gardener. And I am going to have him talk about what he's done to his beautiful home in West Adams in Los Angeles. And he can tell us all about what he's learned and what he's accomplished as a homeowner in Los Angeles. So Greg, thank you so much for coming here today. I am so
Thank you.
grateful that you're spending your time with me. So tell me about the home that you have in West Adams and what it looked like when you first got it, and what was your vision in your transformational project?
Wow. Again, hi everyone. My name is Greg. We've my partner and I bought this house. Let's see, it'll be 21 years. And
Wow.
my vision for a house, we were talking about wanting to buy something, and some people suggested, oh, buy a condo, buy this. And I knew at that point I was a frustrated gardener. In fact, I was so frustrated that around that same time when I was looking to buy a house, I started taking courses in horticulture and gardening, just because I was living in a house. I was living in an apartment. I could not put my fingers into the ground, and I just started taking classes as a way to just sort of satisfy my need to be a gardener, which led to, as I learned more and more, I decided to become a certificated horticulturalist and garden designer through the UCLA Extension program. And that, again, at first was just satisfying my need to be around fellow gardeners and go do stuff. And it also inspired when we started looking simultaneously to buy a place for us to live in, that I said that was a criteria. I needed a garden. I needed space. I needed dirt. Um, and our budget at the time, I lived in the beach at the time. I loved the beach. I loved Venice. Hey, but it wasn't realistic. It wasn't a place for me to that we could afford. So that's why another friend suggested looking at the West Adams area. This was 20. We started looking, I guess, 22 years ago, and we've it took some time, of course. Was I thinking about green at the time? Not really, Zumi. Don't be mad at me. But I was thinking about affordability and something that made us happy, or made me happy, right? And had potential for a garden. And we did find a 1908 arts and crafts bungalow that had, as our realtor said, had 60 years deferred maintenance on the house. So it was, but during, I know this is about home. So when we had our inspection done, I was with there at the inspector and saying, tell me about this house, tell me about this house. And he looked at me and he said, dude, this house has been around for 100 years. It has withstood almost anything that could come its way. And he said, by the way, you have, now I don't know all the terms, but he said a lot of the hidden beams of the house, the structure, he said it's redwood. He said, this house was built, can I swear? This house was built like a shit brick house, like a bomb. He said, this is the reality of how they were building homes, 100 years ago.
Right.
And he said, it's just a good, basic, solid house. And I have a picture of it in a few minutes, the before and after. And that was, of course, was the first thing, was like, okay, we got that.
Yeah.
I mean, that made my partner happy. My dad, who is in real estate, made him happy. That's for our first investment kind of stuff. But I was looking at the gardens. The front yard was crabgrass. And I thought, I can work with that. I saw the potential. I saw the potential. Yeah. The backyard was, I think there's a few perimeter trees and a lemon tree and a lot of concrete. There's a lot of concrete. That's just the aesthetic over the years of how people wanted to keep things simple. again, shifting back at the same time we're buying this house, I was going through this. At the time, it was a really good series of courses. It was a 3-year program to become a certificated horticulturalist and garden designer through the extension program. But one person taught a class in California natives. It wasn't as it was not on people's radar screen quite the same way it is now. But I was really fortunate to take this class, and she was gosh, her name was Elizabeth, and she passed away. That's why I'm forgetting her name. Well, I haven't stayed in contact with her because she passed away. Elizabeth, gosh, people know this. She did a lot of work at Theodore Payne, and
Mhm.
she was such an inspiration. Elizabeth Schwartz, I believe was her name. And she was the first person to really talk about California natives and why. And we weren't talking about water so much. I mean, we had our issues 20 years ago, but not like now. And I just was entranced. Like, I thought, this is amazing. And she gave me, you'll see in the front, you'll see one of the photos, she gave me a little potted plant that has over the decades has reseeded itself again and again and again in the front yard, and is a great pollinator for certain kinds of native butterflies.
Mhm.
And that just started my journey, really. So now I had the front yard, I had the crabgrass, and I had some visions, I had some design visions, but I also thought, well, what do I want to put in there? I will say my first plant choices were more, as we used to call them, Mediterranean plants,
Mhm.
low water plants, plants that grew well in Los Angeles. But the shift over the years has been more and more taking out anything that's not native.
Mhm.
And native can be, the entire California floristic, which is
Yeah.
anything in California.
Yeah.
Or as some of my friends do, they really zero. I live in the LA basin, so it's sort of it's not quite chaparral, it's not quite coastal sage. Some would say where I live probably used to be grasslands.
Mm.
Izumi, where I live, there used to be the LA River before it was channeled. It used
Right.
to come through my area
Mm.
seasonally and create rivulets and create little ponds and create this sort of marshy area that would dry up, of course, during the summer. For
Right.
one of those classes, I had to do soil samples where I lived. I live, I could find within one area, I have places where it's so heavy with clay soil that I could
Mhm.
throw a pot. And maybe a yard or two away, it can be really sandy, like a really rivulet of sand. So
Mm.
it was a riparian, it was a riparian piece of land 120 years ago.
Right.
I was told about flood insurance when we bought the house. We said, I don't think so. Maybe I'm a fool for that. But anyways, this was what LA looked like
Mhm.
120, 150 years ago.
Right.
And over the years, I wanted more and more to honor the plant material of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I started planting things. And of course, they're growing like weeds. Why? Because right soil, right temperature, right composition of sunlight and water, nutrients. But I've also started to shift more and more to plants that actually might have been seen where I actually live, more or less.
Right.
I'm not a zealot, at least not
Mm.
at that time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's been a journey. It's been an evolution. And as you'll see, I also took a class, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, on not only the plants, but think about what else is going on. If you're going to do all these native plants,
Mhm.
the good thing is you're going to start getting a lot of native wildlife with birds, bees, insects, reptiles,
Yeah.
mammals. Talk about that. But it's like, and this is a restorative issue. This is to bring something
Mhm.
back that LA
Mhm.
has unintentionally perhaps got rid of.
Yeah. Well, then without further ado,
Hey,
let's see what you got.
okay, let's see. I can.
Yes.
So this is actually a slideshow I keep taking when I have the chance to take classes. This is a class I took
Mhm.
on being a California naturalist. So I
Mhm.
did this. So I hope it works for our purposes as well. So I call it restorative gardening. This is the book that I already mentioned. Professor Ptolemy came to the Theodore Payne Foundation, which most people, if they know California natives, know they're the
Yeah,
top-notch place to go for Los Angeles.
let's mention the name of the book for the audio
Oh, sure.
audiences.
It's called Bringing
Yeah.
Nature Home,
Mhm.
How You Can Sustain Wildlife with Native Plants by Professor Douglas W. Ptolemy.
Mhm.
And he's actually located in Delaware. So when you
Oh
read his
wow.
book, the content of the plant material and the animals, the bugs, the insects are all there. But his point is, this is happening across the nation, that a lot of
Mhm.
urbanization and agriculture is really causing havoc with native wildlife.
Mhm.
And he really thinks that, yeah, national parks are important. This is all good. But he thinks that actually our native front, our our suburban front yards, our suburban backyards are actually going to be a really important piece in helping native wildlife.
Yeah.
So that's the book. Um, the slide says food desert, and what I want to show are my neighbors. You can see these, I guess as architects, I would say these are arts and crafts transitional homes, that they're not purely arts and crafts. They have some signifiers of Victoriana, as
Hmm.
LA was. I am just west of Western.
Right.
So, like when the first homes built in the new, this probably was at one point bean fields, and before that it was probably just native, truly native.
Hmm.
So it's 1908, things are shifting. You have the arts and crafts sort of like stockiness with some, I'm told,
Right.
Victorian touches. One
Hmm.
neighbor, very traditional, which I think many of us would can say this is a yard that many of us would have grown up in, with a green lawn in the front, trimmed foundational plants.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people say this looks great. This is great. It has a green appeal. It's
Hmm.
just when you look at it, you don't see many butterflies. There's not a lot of native wildlife that can do
Right.
much with this. This is a food desert.
Hmm.
Other side, here's a house. This is the 1950s house, so it looks it's not historical, but they did something I think aesthetically that's really pretty. There's strelitzia, there's ice plant, there's bird of paradise, there's some asparagus ferns. You do see some grasses that were trimmed right here because the time I took it, that they are not native grasses. You see orange. I mean, the color palette is bold and beautiful, and it's
Right.
still a food desert. Very
Hmm.
few of our bugs, of our insects, of our birds have evolved to eat anything here. It's pleasing to our eye,
Hmm.
but it's still considered a food desert.
Right.
Here's a photo of my house. I think a few months after we purchased it, you can see at the time, I mean, this is a arts and crafts with some Victorian sort of like touches here and there. Victoriana. I've been pulling stuff out. I got a rototiller. I dug up the crabgrass. I just pretty much tried to get rid of everything. And you see me with a neighbor building an arbor. I had a vision, Izumi.
Yeah.
I had a vision, very small front yard, but I wanted to create a somewhat of public space and a private space that you had to go
Hmm.
through this arbor with.
Hmm.
Here's neighbors looking at me going like, what are you guys doing? But anyways, it was a lot of fun. And as you can see, I got, at the time I was able to get a truckload of mulch from the city. And I
Hmm.
just put it on the front. You can see it. It's about 12 to 18 inches of mulch that I put down
Hmm.
initially.
Yeah, it looks pretty deep.
These were techniques, of course, I learned from all my gardening stuff. Just to sort of, for a native garden, you don't need so much amending of the soil, but I wanted to do a lot of weed suppression and just get things sort of going.
I see.
So I planted a tree there that's no longer there. It wasn't quite the right fit, but anyways. So here is when we first moved in. Here is what the house looks like.
Oh, how
I think
beautiful.
I took this photo about 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Obviously, the house was painted. You see the trellises there with a
Hmm.
California native grapevine growing on it,
Hmm.
Rogers
Hmm.
Red, which actually
Hmm.
does have little like champagne-looking grapes grow on it for all the wildlife
Wow.
or neighbors who want to come by. Um, and you start seeing a variety of native plants. And as I mentioned to you before, Zumi, I wanted to grow plants that would just grow fairly easily in the LA basin.
Hmm.
Some of my friends are saying, you might want to start thinking about proactively putting some plants in there that more come from the California deserts, going like,
Hmm.
if we take climate change seriously, which most of us do, you got to start thinking about putting plants in here that could actually handle even lower water. So you see a
Right.
Parkinsonia here, you see giant agaves that
Hmm.
are not from LA basin, but they are actually more, and they're thriving, of course.
Hmm.
These are more from the California deserts. But a lot of what
Right.
you see here is now here's the things. It's like on one hand, I'm trying to do things that are native for the reasons that we're alluding to, for wildlife,
Hmm.
or to create an oasis in this food desert for birds and butterflies and bees and all sorts of other critters to have a place to exist.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm trying to also, I was trained with some of the aesthetics of like making things also look somewhat good to the human eye. So that's why I have, as you'll see, hopefully I've done it, but it's probably a little more jam packed than you see in the wild. But it's sort of like bringing in more color form in a very small,
Yeah.
in a very small
Very
space.
pretty. So I see some poppies in this pictures and
The poppies, you
some
see,
sage.
got some sage. You have a
Hmm.
variety. I'll show you a few more
Purple.
things as we go
Hmm.
closer in.
Hmm.
Under the title of "Let's Eat," not for us. Again, I have a grapevine there, but the front yard is more oriented towards the wildlife.
Hmm.
So here's a picture of poppies and penstemon.
Hmm.
Um, which is, of course, and I mentioned I bought a packet of poppy seeds
Mm-hmm.
from Theodore Payne 21 years ago, and I sprinkled it out there in
Mm-hmm.
the wintertime. And so everything you're seeing, I've never put any more poppy seeds out in the front. Everything you're seeing is things that are just every year. Some years more, some years less. Rain years, bright rain, I get a
Mm-hmm.
lot more poppies. When it's more
Mm-hmm.
droughty, fewer. But
Yeah.
every year something comes back, and they self-sow, resow. There's a butterfly there. Now this, I will say, you're seeing this on a Pride of Madeira or an Echium. This was this was a Mediterranean plant from evolved in Portugal area. It
Mm,
grows
interesting.
really well here, but it's not native. And
Yeah.
over the years, I've sort of taken it out, but enough bugs and things, butterflies still like it.
Mm.
Here you see a variety of plant materials.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the poppies are right there. The penstemon, that is a California native. Here you're seeing what they call it, California lilac or
Mm-hmm.
ceanothus. You see the echium in the back. You
Right.
see some manzanita in the lower left. If you see that, you can see a small little uh, 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 oh boy, I like when my brain goes. It will come back to me. It's a red shoot. Whoa. I hate when my brain does that, but it's a little tree that it's been growing and growing, and it will occur to me as soon as this is done. But
Mm-hmm.
it's deciduous, and it has this beautiful, beautiful, vivid purple flowers on it, and it grows great without much water. It is not a dogwood. I'm sorry, it'll come to me.
Yeah,
Now
I'm sure.
here, I want to show
Yeah,
you.
just look
This
at
is
that with poppies.
you can see where that on the right hand side of the slide, you can see the base of the trellis.
Mm-hmm.
So from the trellis to the sidewalk is I call it, again, this is a small garden, but a public garden. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of material where there's birds living in there, butterflies,
Mm-hmm.
lizards. There's all sorts of wildlife in there.
Mm-hmm.
But as you walk along that pathway to the front door, I purposely kept this part more, to call it a meadow,
Yeah.
it's just, and here's the poppies. This is after a really good rain year,
Yeah.
the whole blanketing of poppies,
Mm-hmm.
which lasts about 2 months. And I know you asked me, do I ever water this?
Right.
The front yard could live 100% on rain. Like that's it.
Even during these last few years of drought, they still come out and bloom.
Here's the thing. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually read something today in the LA Times, an editorial. I
Mm-hmm.
sort of disagree with him, but his point is fairly well taken. Someone opined that, yeah, California natives are great to grow, but even right now they're hard to establish because of the lack of rain.
Mm-hmm.
They are, when you're first putting the little plants in, the best time to plant is now through, well, like now, now, through early winter time, hoping that we do get more rains.
Right.
It's just easier for them to establish.
Yeah.
But if it's a hot summer, you need to go up there and do a little bit of watering to get a plant
Right.
established.
Right.
Most of these plants are established. They might be really desiccated during a really hot summer,
Yeah.
but they'll survive. But I
Yeah.
also try to grow things that stay green no matter what, like
Mm-hmm.
this California grape. No matter, I mean, those roots go down so deep
Mm-hmm.
that they don't need. Once established, they are prolific and green, and they don't need anything. These poppies, I think I mentioned that if I want to extend the poppy season, I might hand water if it's a particularly dry spring,
Right. Right.
but they'll come back, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're ephemerals. They're only supposed to be annuals, but they will
Right.
reseed and come back with more. But no, the front yard, I don't have any irrigation. I don't have. But if I'm establishing a new plant, like I might go
Mm-hmm.
out with the hose or something and like
Yeah.
do a bit of watering,
Right.
supplemental
Right.
during the.
Right.
But once they're
Now.
established, yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, they're fine.
So I wanna pause here for a minute and
Yeah,
go back to where you started. We saw that you put some deep mulch,
right.
when you first started. Did you actually till the soil that was there, and did you do anything to
You want
make the soil more live, so to speak?
you
Or
want my truth, right? You want the truth. So
yes, I
yes,
want your truth.
this is before I had taken. We purchased this house. I hadn't quite gotten as far along with all of my studies
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge of working with natives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean now I say that with shame. I rototillered. I went out there and dug things up,
Mm-hmm.
because all I was doing
Mm-hmm.
was rototilling bits
Mm-hmm.
and pieces of especially crabgrass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just breaking it up and making it more prolific. Um,
Mm-hmm.
more and more, especially for native gardens, I'll just stick with
Mhm.
native gardens. It's like
Mhm.
I wouldn't have done that. I might have. You can do a variety of things for weed suppression. You can, of course, go up there and pull them by hand.
Right.
Some talk about the lasagna. Have you heard the lasagna method?
No,
Yeah.
no.
I did not do that, but I've seen people do it. You get big sheets of cardboard that you're going to throw out anyways.
Right. I have seen that actually. Yeah.
Or if you're one of those people who still get the times delivered, you hold on to, like, you just gather lots and lots and lots of newspaper,
Newspapers.
hoping that
Mhm.
the ink that they use is now biodegradable, and you just go out and you wouldn't disrupt the soil as much. You
Right.
just layer things for like 6 months to sort of smother the weeds.
Mhm.
And like I said, California natives, they don't want rich soils. They evolved
Mm.
with our fairly lean, organically speaking,
Mhm.
soils in the LA basin.
Mhm.
So, but I did put that mulch. I've only done it really like one time did I put that mulch in, and it's all gone away.
Mhm.
Every now and
Mhm.
then I might go in, if I do a new planting, I might put a bit more mulch in, but
Right.
I don't fertilize. I don't put compost out in the front yard. Like people,
Oh, really?
compost is an amazing thing.
Mhm.
Compost, if you're going to grow veggies, if
Mhm.
you're going to grow things that are not native to California,
Right.
compost creates too much organic material in the soil. California natives would not
Oh,
like it. It actually can cause problems. And so
interesting. I
our
did not
California
know that.
natives, at least let
Mhm.
me talk about California natives that I'm growing.
Right. Right.
California natives of the LA Basin, they evolved
Mhm.
in fairly non-rich soils,
Right.
non-organic soils. So
I
don't.
see.
I like being a lazy gardener, Izumi. Trust me, I put a lot of work to get this prepared. Trust me.
Right. Yes.
But using these plant material, they need tending, they need some trimming,
Mhm.
occasionally some water, no
Mhm.
pesticides,
Mhm.
no herbicides,
Mhm.
no fertilizers, and you get something that looks like this. This is not a year-round garden, but this is a early spring, late winter garden, which is
Yeah,
just, I think it's just a nice splash when the rest of the world is looking a little drab still in Los
I
Angeles.
agree. Yeah.
But right, I worked too hard. I mean, I should not have I should not have gotten a rototiller. I should not have done all those things. I didn't need to do that. I could have just let nature do its work and layer
Yeah.
things, smother the weeds, go, and I still have to go sometimes and pull weeds out by hand, but it's nothing like when I moved in. I mean, it was pretty much a
Mm.
crabgrass front yard.
So you're saying that rather than tilling the soil that was there, you could have just done the
Leave it
weed
alone. Leave it
abatement.
alone. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just tilling the soil. I can't. Maybe for other. I've even heard people, when it comes to vegetables, they used to talk
Yeah.
about tilling the soil. Now they're saying no, don't don't
Right.
don't mess with the soil microbiota. The
Mm-hmm.
soil. There's a lot of things going on in a healthy
Mm-hmm.
soil that when you
Mm-hmm.
till it, you actually interfere with it.
Right.
So even in areas where you want to grow like more flowers or vegetables that do need a lot
Mm-hmm.
more nutrition,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
give yourself some time, do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of layering. You can put,
Mm-hmm.
Not for California plants, but for other higher things that do not evolve here in Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles or
Mm-hmm.
California. You can
Mm-hmm.
put a layer of compost.
Right.
Don't till it. Just pull up the weeds, pull up a nice layer of compost from
Mm-hmm.
your compost pile that you
Mm-hmm.
purchased. Over
Mm-hmm.
that, put a nice layer of mulch. And it
Mm-hmm.
could be, my hands are like, it could be 12 to 18 inches.
Right.
Do that in the fall, leave it alone.
Yeah.
And as things, let the bugs, let the worms, let
Right.
the things
Right.
just do the work for you and bring all that
Right.
nutrition down into the soil.
Right.
I knew I wanted to do more things in the front yard. I wanted to be a welcoming place
Mm-hmm.
for the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
First they're like, "What is this fool doing out there?" They planted like these little baby plants, and
That's right.
neighbors would walk by and say like, "No lawn." I said, "No lawn." Really? No lawn? No lawn. They were older, and
Right.
they had a different idea
Mm-hmm.
of what a
Mm-hmm.
home should look like. They did not
Right.
complain.
Yeah.
Their credit, they did not stop me. They did not complain,
Right.
but they didn't understand. But after a
Right.
few years, they said, "Greg, it's beautiful." I mean, they've been very complimentary
Oh,
as
that's
people
nice.
walk by and
Mm-hmm.
they see the flowers and the butterflies, and they like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've not, except for that native grape, which does have grapes. There's no. I'm not growing any human food per se
I
here.
see. Mm-hmm.
Backyard, I planted a persimmon tree recently.
Oh,
I
yes.
grow tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
I have them in raised beds. It's a combination of natives and other plants that I just want to grow. Like I want to
Right.
do this. So I have shady places where I'm growing some native ferns, but also
Mhm.
some ferns that are like I pick and choose my battles in my backyard based upon my backyard is where I spend more time hanging out. My front yard is it is not a it's a
That's a
public yard.
community space
Right.
that you
It's a
create.
public space. So I have my
Hmm.
backyard has a variety of things going on.
I think that's a big contribution for your community that you created this garden that people can come and enjoy,
I hope so.
and you can inspire other neighbors. Um,
But it's
do
also
we
the
have?
community. It's also, but I want to say the community of also I mean, sometimes when I during the pandemic, here's the good news
Hmm.
about the pandemic for me. I
Hmm.
was able to sit on my front porch and just watch what happens in my front yard. Like really, I had the time, and
Yeah,
I was amazed as Zumi, not only to see people walk by and look,
right,
but I saw the butterflies, I saw the
right.
birds. I thought I
Hmm.
had no idea. I
Hmm.
was that guy who would travel
Hmm.
places to see all this. I said, oh my gosh, it's happening here. I don't have to get in my gas car and go for a beautiful hike.
But
I can just sit on my front porch and see it's happening here. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. Do you have any more pictures on this slide?
Let me see. Oh,
Oh,
let's make
let's
babies.
make
Yeah, yeah.
babies.
Again, this is on the Ceanothus. You can see this woven spider web packet.
Hmm.
It's a little fuzzy, but you can see babies are being made in my front yard.
Yeah.
And I put some important to put some water here. As I mentioned, though, as pretty as this is, it's a sort of an elevated bowl of water. This isn't
Mm.
really. I need to take this out and put. I'm told for a lot of critters, if they get to the water and they fall in, they drown. So I need to
Oh,
create
oh,
more of
really?
a shallow, like not a pond, but like a shallow, like I guess sure, a shallow
About bird
pond.
bath. Hmm.
Yeah, that's not that critters can walk in,
Mm.
walk out if they need to. So, but
Right.
it's good to have a little bit of water for them.
Hmm.
And again, this is a picture of my more California desert,
Hmm.
Parkinsonia, the aloe, excuse me, the agave.
Agave.
There's a buddleia over there. These are things that are evolved more for the even drier than what
Hmm.
they used to be. And I'm sort of hedging my bets, like I don't know what's going to happen. So
Right. Well,
yeah,
we see a lot of agave plants in a lot of Los Angeles neighborhood as
right,
being,
absolutely.
so-called drought tolerant
They are very
garden.
drought. They're very,
Hmm.
yeah. They're not exactly. They're a little different. Their strategy is a little different, but they're thriving. I mean, they're
Hmm.
throwing up pups.
Yes.
Here is what normally would be like this horrible sort of like parking strip, like just this sort of like dead zone. And
Yeah.
here, and that I wish I can't remember this, that silver looking plant is the plant that Elizabeth Schwartz gave me. I won in a
Mm.
contest 20 some years
Hmm.
ago, and
Hmm.
it just keeps coming back, resows itself, and uh, uh, it's a great source of pollen for. I wish I remember
Hmm.
which moths and butterflies it was,
Hmm.
but this is all. It's just it looks like this right now, Zoomy, but during a lot of the year, it's
Hmm.
not so pretty. So
Yeah.
that's perhaps a downside of this. Or I need to be more thoughtful to plant things that also have some green interest year round.
Right. Right.
This is to my eye very pretty,
Hmm.
but it's not a year round phenomenon. So it
I
takes a
see.
little. That's part of the gardening. That's part of the. It helps to have someone like I've taken advantage of learning how to create more year round interest, and it's an
Hmm.
ongoing.
I see. I see.
And I think that was this is just a quote from the book. I don't know if you want me to read it or not, if there's time.
Yes, please. Let's read it.
This is not me. This is from Ptolemy. As development and habitat destruction accelerate, there are increasing pressures on wildlife populations. In bringing nature home, Douglas Ptolemy reveals the unbreakable link between native plant species and native wildlife. Native insects cannot or will not eat alien plants.
Ah.
Native plants disappear, the insects disappear, impoverishing the food source for birds and other animals. But there is an important and simple step we can all take to help reverse this alarming trend. Everyone with access to a patch of earth can make a significant contribution towards sustaining biodiversity by simply choosing native plants to that area.
Hmm.
So this is really part of my inspiration about
Right.
what I'm doing.
Hmm.
There's all sorts of good reasons to do natives. Less water, it's easier, lazy gardener. Uh, but there's this piece that I call restorative justice, or
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
indeed.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm. So, Greg, I know you mentioned that you took courses.
yeah,
You are you are a homeowner that I am having you on my podcast. So you are not currently providing service as a
yeah.
garden designer or consultant, right?
No, I'm happy today to just to to share what I have done from again
Hmm.
my classes.
Hmm.
What have I done? I've taken well three. Ever have a midlife crisis? No. Uh, but I had a midlife crisis, and I was deciding, do I want to leave my first career or go into garden design? And that's why I
Hmm.
did the 3-year program at UCLA
Hmm.
Extension. It's a great
Hmm.
program, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, But after 3 years, I loved it, Izumi. I loved it. I said, I don't
Hmm.
want to do this for a living.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I feel to bring all that knowledge into what I do here. And people sometimes have said, would you like to design my garden? I said, no. However, what I've realized is when friends ask, I said, I'd be happy to teach you how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm an educator, as you know, by profession. So
Hmm.
I realized I don't want to do it for you. I'll be happy to just pass what I've learned and have people, I'll give advice, I'll consult, I'll teach them. So far, few people want that. They know, Greg, yeah, I want you to do it for me. I said, I don't want to, yeah, but but yeah, so through something like this, Elizabeth Schwartz, I mean, she was wonderful to start teaching me about natives. I went with her on a field trip to Theodore Payne 20
Hmm.
years ago
Hmm.
and to start learning about that. And I've taken courses now at Theodore Payne itself.
Hmm.
Um, I took a class with the California naturalists.
Hmm.
It's just, we live in this amazing state, right?
Hmm.
That there's so much to know about California that we don't have to import from other areas. I just understand
Right.
what's
Yeah.
going on here.
So you mentioned a few resources, since you're not offering services, but
Not yet, Liz.
what resources can you recommend? You mentioned UCLA Extension, Theodore Payne.
Theodore Payne. Those are, if you want to learn how to design a, a garden. And this is not, they have a landscape architecture program there also. For those of you who
Right.
want to learn what's the difference. Um, okay, I did a class with the landscape architecture program. He took us out onto the UCLA campus after a
Hmm.
class. I said, look at the trees. Look how they're placed. Look what your eye does. Look how the form, the function, like what is this? Why is this tree here? What does it do for us as humans? It creates shade, it creates beauty,
Right. Yeah.
it allows your eye to go up that tree. I mean, he talked about the form and function of a tree.
Hmm.
I took the next semester, I took a class with my program, which talks about how to grow healthy plants. She took us out to the same spot and she said, what do you see? Look at these trees. Look how poorly planted they are. Look how distressed they are. Look how they're not happy. I'm just laughing, going like, I don't want to make that, there's more to it than landscape
Hmm.
architecture and
Yeah.
gardening, but one is more interested in form and functions, one's more interested in growing healthy plants. They both come together in how to eventually grow healthy plants
Hmm.
in an aesthetically pleasing way
Hmm.
for whether you're landscaping for a corporation
Right.
or for a home garden.
Right.
So
Right.
I lean more towards healthy plants, but I'm working still on trying to create an aesthetic that looks,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, I want me and I want myself and my neighbors to walk by and go like, oh, that looks nice,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Anyway,
Yeah. So is there any more visions for you that in for your front, like you said that you want your neighbors to come by and say, "Oh, how beautiful." Um, and you are growing some food in the backyard.
correct.
What is your bigger vision about this for your home?
For me or for my home, it's, gosh, Izumi, one thing, you know, I'll say by myself, I don't know where I got this idea. It's like, I wanted to do it like one and done. Like I want to do it once. And I don't know, like any gardener worth their, any experienced gardener says like, dude, that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, I
So it's
know.
been taking me some time. Like I said, I did pull out more of the non-native
Hmm.
Mediterraneans and putting in more California natives in.
Hmm.
Um, the front yard's always like editing, things get old, things need, or I change, you know, I learn more
Hmm.
like, I don't know, it's always, but I can also leave it alone. The good thing,
Yeah,
I can leave it alone and it'll
right,
do what I want it to do. It looks
right.
pretty enough
Hmm.
and it's doing this amazing function for the wildlife. And that
Yeah, yeah.
backyard I'm playing more around with at times because that's where we have a place to have dinner, a place to hang out.
Hmm.
There's more human activity, if you will, in my
Hmm.
backyard. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to grow persimmons, I'm growing lemons,
Hmm.
um, sometimes tomatoes during the summertime. And I have a pond in the backyard where the raccoon, oh, I have to say this. Remember I said there's all these
Right.
benefits, there's all this good stuff. But I want to be honest. Again, I was a little naive. So in the backyard in particular,
Yeah.
wildlife has found my backyard. Butterflies, sure, bees, birds, it's amazing. But so have opossums, so have raccoons, and it's all of a sudden these raccoons, it's like, oh my gosh, they are something. They take little laps and I have this little ornamental pond and they think it's great in the middle of the
They
night to
do.
take laps and they throw out all of the plants that I have there and they looking for, I think the goldfish are long gone. Uh,
Oh gosh.
the mosquito fish have survived. This is good. Um, so it's like, you know, I thought like I had to like really check myself as Zumi. I think like you don't, if you invite wildlife,
Yeah.
you can't pick and choose. you
So
know?
what's your remedy? What have you come to any solution how to deal with that?
I looked up what to do about how to keep raccoons, and it's like they said either take away the things that attract them, meaning water
Oh,
features,
right.
or just live with it. And I'm so
Right.
far deciding to. We no longer have a dog. I think
Right.
it's
Uh-huh.
pretty. Our dog passed away, so but it's like I thought, like maybe I won't get a dog or for the backyard because dogs and raccoons are not a good. Raccoons can be tough. So
Yes.
and I sort of like right now I'm making spiritual practice. I'm making peace. Like if I'm inviting them
Mm-hmm.
not too far from where I live, there have been coyotes sightings.
Right.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
freaked out by coyotes. Our cats are indoor cats.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, coyotes have not leaped over fences to get into my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't have these like apex predators, if you will. But
Right.
opossums are cute as can be. I gotta say, raccoons are so adorable. Except as you
Yes.
watch them just tear through stuff, it's like I don't want to mess with them. So
Right. So you're living with
I
them
said
peacefully.
I could buy cougar, I think like puma pea. I go like I'm not. I mean, some people I've read online you can do all these things to try to keep, and I so far have said I'm just making peace with it. Talk to me a year
I
from
think
now, I
that's a
might
good
change my
answer.
mind, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they eat all I haven't had persimmons yet. Like my tree is still young. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you and I've talked about this. I mean, I think
Yes.
your dad grew persimmons, right?
Yeah. 8 years.
And you know what? I will tell you in time from now, if 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 I don't get any persimmon fruit, I'll have to think about that.
Okay,
That is
Greg.
something to be realistic about. Like
Yeah.
it can look a native garden can look a little bare bones during the summer unless you put some
Yeah.
extra thought into what you plant. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a simple solution.
Yeah.
When you do a native garden, you're inviting wildlife, which
Right.
is what we want. But sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you also have wildlife coming in that go like, wait a minute, I didn't
Yeah.
bargain for this, and that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much, Greg, for all this inspiring stories.
Well,
It's
Azumi, well, what you're doing inspires me. You know that, so I think
thank
this
you.
is my house a green home? Well, maybe one day you'll help me make the home itself greener. But I know I feel good about my. For me,
Yeah.
when I say a home, I think of the
Mm-hmm.
structure, but
Exactly.
obviously I think of
Right. It's the
the whole
land.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the whole place. Great. Well, thank you so much, Greg.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for your
Azumi.
time.
This is
This was
wonderful.
this was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes. Until my next episode. Thank you.